All right, so let's dive into Arcane. Now, before you hit that skip button thinking, ugh, another video game thing, trust me on this one. Gamer or not, this deep dive is for everyone.
Absolutely. This show, it's really in a league of its own.
We're looking at this awesome review someone sent in. They clearly binged the whole thing. You know what grabbed them first? The animation. Actually, they called it a visual spectacle, which, honestly, same.
Yeah, and for good reason. It's one of those things that really sets Arcane apart. It's like, imagine CG animation so detailed, so expressive that it feels like a living, breathing painting. That's what they've accomplished here.
Seriously. The reviewer used words like fluid, easy on the eye, even said the fight scenes were like watching a moving painting, which...
Not your typical fight scene experience.
No, not at all.
And speaking of visuals, can we talk about the world itself? Piltover and Zon, such a striking contrast. You've got this gleaming utopia, all about progress and technology, and then there's the Undercity, struggling to survive, literally in the shadows.
And the reviewer picked up on this super interesting detail, the bridge connecting them. They described it as this visual metaphor for the whole power dynamic at play. The wealthy, both literally and figuratively, looking down on those in the Undercity.
It's a classic setup, but Arcane adds this layer of complexity to it. It's not just about where you're from, but who you are, and how those identities clash within this divided world.
And speaking of characters, can we talk about Jace and Victor for a sec? Our reviewer could not get enough of their storylines.
Right. And it's interesting because at first glance, they seem like your typical scientist-inventor types. But Arcane digs deeper. It explores the weight of their ambitions, the unintended consequences of progress.
It's like they both start with good intentions, wanting to make the world better, but their paths, they split in such a dramatic way. The reviewer was drawn to that similar yet different aspect of their journey.
It makes you think, what would you do, right? Like, take Jace. Starts as this idealistic inventor full of hope, then boom, he's thrust into Piltover's political scene. Suddenly, he's grappling with the consequences, the unintended side effects of his inventions.
It's like the show's asking us, how far is too far in the name of progress?
Exactly. And then there's Victor, this incredible mind, driven by a deep desire to help the Undercity, to uplift those who've been left behind. But the path he chooses, well, let's just say it gets a little morally ambiguous.
Right. He gets tempted by this idea of power, of achieving his goals by any means necessary.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, though, because even as he goes down this darker path, he never loses sight of his compassion.
Yeah. The reviewer pointed out how it's ultimately that compassion that redeems him, even when he makes some questionable choices.
Okay, so we've got stunning animation, this city practically bursting at the seams with tension, and characters like Jace and Victor grappling with these huge questions about innovation, responsibility. It's more than just a cool setting. It's like the stage is set for some seriously thought-provoking drama.
100%. And the thing is, we're just scratching the surface here. Because at the heart of Arcane, according to our reviewer, is a story about two sisters, V and Powder.
So, last time we started exploring the world of Arcane, and now we're diving deeper into the lives of two characters who really make this story hit home, V and Powder.
Yeah, the reviewer called them like the heart of the whole thing, and honestly, that's spot on. I mean, their story, especially set against this whole Piltover-Zon conflict, it just adds this whole other layer of depth, you know?
Yeah.
Tragedy, complexity, it's all there.
Right. We get to see how it all unfolds, because the story takes us back, way back to when they were just kids trying to make it on the streets of Zon.
Exactly. Imagine this. Vi and Powder, just these little kids trying to survive in this underworld. They're part of this little gang, scrounging for scraps, pulling off these small-time heists. I mean, it'd be easier to write them off as just, like, delinquents. But the show, it goes deeper, gives them this backstory that really makes you feel for them.
It's heartbreaking, really, when you think about what they went through.
It really is. You know, the reviewer mentioned Vander, this gruff but, like, big-hearted guy who ends up taking them in, becoming their guardian. He's this ex-freedom fighter, seen some things, and he's desperate to shield Vi and Powder from that life, you know?
He sounds like that one adult in a kid's life, that one good influence that can make all the difference, the one who sees the good in them even when they screw up.
Exactly. But here's the thing about Arcane. It doesn't sugarcoat things. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's this job, this burglary they pull that goes terribly wrong.
And that's where things really start to go off the rails, right? That's where Silco enters the picture.
Oh, yeah. This one bad decision throws them right into the path of Piltover's enforcers. And, well, it puts them square on Silco's radar. And let me tell you, Silco, He is a villain you won't soon forget.
The reviewer definitely picked up on that. They were both terrified and, I don't know, kind of drawn to him
Yeah,
more.
I get it. I totally get it. He's this ruthless, ambitious figure, completely dead set on elevating Zahn, no matter the cost. But here's the thing, and this is what makes him so compelling. He's not just some one-dimensional baddie. He's got his own baggage, his own history, even with Vander, which makes their whole dynamic so much more interesting. I think the reviewer even mentions something about a near-drowning experience they both shared.
Yeah, and you get the sense that there's this shared trauma between them. You can't help but wonder, like, what if things had gone differently? How would their lives have turned out?
Exactly. See, that's what's so brilliant about Arcane. It blurs those lines between good and evil, makes you consider the motivations, the complexities of even the so-called bad guys.
It's so true. But back to Vin and Powder. We've got this whole situation with Silco brewing. And then there's that whole thing with Shimmer, right? Can't forget about the Shimmer.
Ah, Shimmer. You can't talk about Arcane without talking about Shimmer. This addictive, volatile drug, Silco's been developing it, and let me tell you, it's potent. We're talking superhuman abilities, but at a serious cost.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those deals with the devil situations. Like, sure, you get these amazing powers, but it's going to cost you big time.
You got it. We're talking heightened aggression, messed up perceptions, and yeah, in some cases, it can literally turn people into monsters.
And this is where things get really intense for Vin and Powder, right?
Yeah.
Because the reviewer mentioned this huge showdown, this battle that changes everything.
Oh yeah, that showdown. It's a major turning point. Think epic battle for control of Zahn, Vander and Vi versus Silco and his crew. But it's Powder, sweet, inventive Powder, who ends up being the catalyst for the tragedy that unfolds. It's rough.
Okay, hold on, because this is where I need some clarification. The reviewer kept referring to Powder as Jinx, and I'm a little confused. Is that like a nickname, or is that actually her name?
It's both, really. Like, we find out later that Powder's true name is something else entirely, but Jinx, that name becomes a tragic label, a direct result of everything that goes down during that fight.
Okay, so walk me through it, because the reviewer, they made it sound pretty brutal.
It's intense. Chaos everywhere, explosions going off, shimmer-fueled rage. Powder, she's terrified, but she sees the people she cares about, the ones she loves, in danger. She wants to help, so she grabs one of her inventions, these little bombs she builds, thinking she can give them an edge. Problem is, in all the chaos, something goes wrong. Terribly wrong.
The bomb, it backfires.
Badly. And the fallout is devastating. Some of their friends, people they were close to, they're caught in the blast. Even Vander, who put himself on the line to protect them, he's mortally wounded.
Oh, man. Talk about a punch to the gut. I'm starting to see where that name Jinx comes from.
Right. Vizai, she's heartbroken, furious, and in this moment of pure anguish, she lashes out at Powder, calls her Jinx, blames her for the whole thing. It's this raw emotional explosion that shatters their relationship.
And this is where Silco swoops in, right? Seizes the opportunity.
He sees Powder's vulnerability, her desperation for love, for belonging, and he uses it. Promises her a family, a place where she truly belongs. It's a twisted form of love, for sure, but for a kid who's just lost everything, it's enough. And that, my friend, is where Powder's transformation into Jinx really begins.
Yeah. So we left things pretty heavy last time. Powder, now Jinx, is on this dark path with Silco, and Vi's left dealing with guilt and grief, locked away.
And that's where that time jump comes in, right? We see how years of simmering tension, hidden agendas, all that, has reshaped Piltover and Zahn. It's like you can feel it in the air.
Yeah, and if I remember right, the reviewer mentioned that we see Vi again, but she's older now, tougher, and, well, she's behind bars for what happened that night.
It's amazing, though, how even with all that time passed, you still instantly connect with Vi. She's grown up some, definitely tougher, but you can still see that spark in her, you know, that protective older sister, even in prison.
And then there's Caitlin. I remember the reviewer mentioning her, but it's a little fuzzy. Refresh my memory.
Oh, right. So Caitlin, she's this Piltover enforcer, kind of like a detective. She's laser focused on solving this string of bombings that are threatening to blow the city apart, and she sees Vi as a way in. Vi understands the Undercity, so Caitlin gets her out to help with the investigation.
Okay, right. It's coming back to me now.
Yeah.
So they team up, this unlikely alliance.
Exactly. It's like classic buddy cop energy, but with way higher stakes. You've got Caitlin representing Piltover's law and order, and Vi, who's lived the Undercity struggle.
Yeah.
Their dynamic is so good.
So while they're trying to stop these bombings, Jinx is out there. Well, the reviewer didn't hold back. They called her mentally unhinged at this point.
And it's sad, because you see how much that night, that explosion, how much it still haunts her. Silco might have taken her in, but he also twisted her pain, used it.
He made her into a weapon.
Yeah, aimed right at Piltover. She's brilliant, no doubt, but so volatile, driven by this need for revenge, but also, I think, recognition.
And this all leads up to that final showdown, the one with the council meeting, right?
Mm.
The reviewer mentioned it was a wild ride.
Seriously wild. All these storylines, all this tension. It's like a powder keg ready to blow. You've got Silco fighting for Zoe, and then there's Jace, stuck between his loyalty to Piltover and wanting peace. And Jinx, she's got her own plan, this elaborate scheme to expose the hypocrisy of it all.
No wonder the reviewer said it was great. Ain't he sad? It sounds like everyone's a mess, all these past choices coming back to bite them.
That's Arcane in a nutshell. It's a masterclass in how to write a tragedy. Just when you think maybe, just maybe, there's a chance for peace, Jinx makes her move. She kidnaps Vi and Caitlyn, even Silco, forces them all into this messed up family dinner.
Oh, yeah, I remember that part. The reviewer was like, a family dinner with Jinx. This is going to get ugly fast.
And it does. It's this huge emotional confrontation, years of pain, betrayal. It all comes pouring out. And in the chaos, Jinx accidentally, she kills Silco.
Whoa. Talk about a gut punch.
It's a breaking point for Jinx. The one person who she thought understood her, he's gone. And in that moment of grief and rage, she makes a choice, and it changes everything.
She fires that missile, doesn't she? The one aimed at Piltover.
Right as the council votes for peace, for Zaun's independence. Talk about a tragic irony. It's chaos, utter chaos. And it leaves you wondering, what's going to happen to these characters? What's going to happen to Piltover and Zaun?
What a cliffhanger. I mean, no wonder the reviewer was speechless.
It's bold, ending it like that, but it's what makes Arcane so good, leaves you wanting more, dying to know what happens next.
So there you have it. Our crash course on Arcane, straight from the heart of one dedicated fan. Breathtaking animation, complex characters, impossible choices. This show is something else.
And honestly, we just scratched the surface. There's so much more to uncover, layers upon layers of world building, amazing music, themes that really make you think.
Exactly. So go check it out for yourselves, see what all the fuss is about. Explore the fandom, make up your own mind about these characters.
Who knows? Maybe you'll be writing us a review, raving about all the twists and turns of Arcane.